my body becomes like a cement. Oh my God.
That was the better one.
Okay. Oh my God. It's like magic. Literally like magic.
Although it may seem a little mundane, packing up boxes and, being on the assembly line, what we're really doing is putting in hundreds of hours into the people on the streets who need us. And they need us in a way that none of us will ever understand. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been on the grounds every day. They know we're coming today, they know we're coming tomorrow, and they look forward to seeing us because we're the one little bit of hope that they have to have a warm meal in their bellies and to know that somebody in the world is actually caring for them and loving them. And without people like you showing up today to give your time, your energy, and your spirit, none of this is possible. So I want to really say thank you to everyone, because what we're doing here today may seem small, but it's actually really, really big, and it's impacting hundreds and thousands of families. So I thank you, I love you, I look forward to doing this with you today.
My name is Serena Buffalino, and I am the founder of Help Heal Humanity. Help Heal Humanity is a charity that is focused on unconditional giving, love, and support to some of the most vulnerable communities in the world.
When you do nothing, nothing happens. Best time to take action is now.
This is the time to work on you and your business.
So I've created a group,
An online academy for professionals and entrepreneurs. Power Partners will help you
to start helping yourself.
Helped me change my life and my business.
Not a Toastmasters, it's not a BNI, it's not any of these, but it is. So it's all this stuff in one place.
Get the results that you deserve right now. So what are you waiting for? Let's make it happen.
see you in Power Partners.
Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao. Hola. Ohio. Bienvenue. Wan Ying. bienvenido, yokoso, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every week, I have the distinct honor and privilege of taking you on a journey to places you've never been before, to hear stories you've never heard before. Each week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take you on a mental, physical, and spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. And I do this because I believe in the power of stories. I've seen it transform people. I've experienced it being a transformative force in my life. And it is my hope and my belief that somewhere along the line, somewhere in this journey that you and I will take together, that you will hear something, a story that will move you, a story that will perhaps make you look at the world in a different way. And each week, my mission, my goal is to create a sound that resonates inside of you as you move along your journey into discovering the value of your own stories. Before we start, I want to just take a second to give prayer and thoughts to the children and the teachers and just the people in Texas who lost their lives in just senseless violence. It's unbelievable. Since this show is broadcast all over the world, I just want to say, yeah, this is some of the things that's happening in this country. So when we talk about stories, I want people to understand the most amazing thing about gemology, really, and as I always say, this is a journey that you and I take together. The most amazing thing about gemology is how you can trace it back to things that happened so long ago, things that happened in history that you never really even thought about. And then next thing you know, something that's happening today will remind you of something that was the case years ago. And such is the case as far as what's happening with, well, a lot of things in celebrity, but with the whole situation with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. And I was angry. I was very angry of when that happened. I was just like, wait, that's crazy. I was mad. I was more, as an African-American male, I was angry that here was the pinnacle of this man's success. Will Smith was, up to that point, he could just do no wrong. Every movie he made, even if it was an okay movie, he still made money. You know, he was just the man. And then the slap heard around the world. And I was mad because this, as a storyteller, I was mad because we literally got a chance, the unfortunate opportunity to see a man's whole entire story be destroyed at just a moment's notice. And, you know, that I don't know how many weeks ago that happened, but it was a while ago. And I was surprised, let's say, when I saw some comments, people still talking about a good friend of mine. I won't say a good friend of mine. Someone I grew up with had wrote a story saying how he was upset. Hey, Freeman, if you're watching, that he was upset still. I think his post was that, you know, he had a hard time still looking at Will Smith's movies now. And I understand it in the same way, but at some point I had a laugh when I really thought about it, because this is nothing new. This is just something that has happened for a long, long time. So I thought about how those same things, or actually worse, has happened in history. I'm trying to pull, Barbara, if you can help me pull up the second screen, I appreciate that. How this has happened throughout history. So today, thank you. I want to talk about something that a lot of people in this country don't know about, but this is a big story in France. It's called the affair of the diamond necklace. L'affaire de collier in français. But before we talk about that, a lot of people were upset with Will, some people upset with Jada. And my point is today, this show is that this is nothing new. This is like something that has happened in history. And when you really deal with the thing that's amazing to me about jewelry is jewelry, the whole history of mankind really revolves around gemstones and precious metals, either directly or indirectly. And that's what we talk about in this show, because it's the stories. And each week I say to you, the most important thing that you can ever do and ever realize about yourself are your stories. What makes you you? How did you get there? How did the things that's going on in your life happen? And once you understand those stories, once you understand what makes you you, how you find yourself in those situations, then you begin to understand the value of it. As some of you know, I am an appraiser. I'm a gemological appraiser. What I do is I look at gemstones and precious metals and fine jewelry, and I have to look at what it is. How was it made? Where did it come from? And once I discover those things, then I can put a value to it, a price to how much is it worth. And for those of you who have been following me, for following this show, again, thank you for your continued support. Please subscribe. A lot of you watching the show, just as a side, a lot of you watching the show and you don't subscribe, please subscribe just to help support the show. And also, even more importantly, give comments, because this show is really based on a comment that an old childhood friend said that made me think about the content of the show, because I had it in my mind for a long time. I just was waiting for the right time. So again, Freeman, thank you so much for just giving me that inspiration. And as I always say to people, nothing has value without a story. Nothing. So today I'm going to tell you two stories. And my purpose of telling you those stories is showing you, again, gem identification, knowing who you're dealing with, or really not knowing who you're dealing with can change your life. So the first story, before we get to the affair of the necklace, I want to talk about my boy. Again, this is the symbol of my company, the Gem Hunter. These gemstones have significant parts in human history: rubies, emeralds, sapphires, citrine, which is quartz. So many things are watches. So many things are made with quartz, gold, of course. And I have to do a whole show on gold and diamonds. Again, this is the month of emerald, so you're at the 6 o'clock position. So the first story I want to tell you about is my boy Napoleon. And all of you know how I feel about Napoleon. Napoleon, whether you look at him from just a governmental point of view, as far as being an emperor of France, or here he is, I think he was probably he was a general by that point. He was a general at that point when he took this picture. Napoleon, of course, he rose up to become an emperor, the first emperor of France. And when I think about some of the things that people are saying about Will Smith and how they changed their mind about Will Smith because, what he did, and some people feel that he was right because he was defending his wife. And some people think that, like my first thought was angry because he literally destroyed his life over something that Jada said that she was cool with. She was cool with her having alopecia. And again, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about alopecia, because alopecia is a disease that some women have. Unfortunately, I know a couple of people I just realized that have alopecia. So I understand that. And to be full disclosure, I have the male aspect of it. I have male pattern baldness. Yes, I had to make a choice, I don't know, 20 years ago, that I was getting bald right in the top of my head, right here, just a small spot. And I said, well, and I saw my brother already bald here. So I had to make a choice between either looking like Bozo the clown or looking like that character that's in the Muppet, you know, one of the two old guys sitting in the top. I didn't want to look like that. So I just decided to cut it all off. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, she shouldn't have felt about that. Oh, a woman's hair is her glory. But my point is how the public opinion shifted for Will Smith because of what he did. Will Smith, again, he got an Oscar, all the movies, so many. I've looked at so many projects that are now canceled because of the slap. So how does that go back to Napoleon? Well, Napoleon was an up-and-coming military officer, and he met this wonderful he met this wonderful woman named Josephine. Josephine, and a lot of people know about Josephine and Napoleon, and they talk about it as if it was a great love affair. It wasn't. Josephine was not a nice woman. She did not in any way, shape, or form help Napoleon. Yeah, okay. She was, you know, I don't want to say a name for Josephine, but put it this way. Josephine was typical, just like Jada, fine. In her age, she was fine. Josephine came from Martinique. She wasn't French. She came from Martinique, so a French colony. One of the things about Josephine, you'll never see her with pictures of her smiling because she came from a rich family who had a sugar plantation in Martinique. She chewed sugar cane all her life, so her teeth were really rotten and black. So all the pictures that you see of Josephine learned how to smile without opening her mouth. And Napoleon fell in love with her. He fell in love. I think their relationship maybe lasted 6 to 8 months, and then he married her. And when he got engaged, he bought her this ring. He had gotten demoted just before he was a general. He got demoted for something that he did, and he bought her what's called a toi et moi, me and you and me ring. Okay, with a sapphire and a diamond. And he couldn't afford it. It was way more expensive than the kind of money, but he loved Josephine so much that he gave her this ring, and they got married. And when she got married, he had to go back into war. And I'm not going to get into the battles and everything, but he had to go back into war 2 weeks. 2 weeks passed, and Josephine slept with one of Napoleon's lieutenants. Yeah. 2 weeks after he went to war, Josephine turned right back around and slept with one of the lieutenants. And you have to understand how much how much Napoleon loved Josephine. I have a book right here. This is a book. Look at the thickness of this book. This is the book of all the love letters. 414 pages of love letters. Ladies and gentlemen, especially the ladies, how many love letters have you gotten? You know, like I always like to say, what's in your wallet? This is love letters that letters de Napoleon en Josephine. These are the love letters, well, various letters that he wrote Josephine during their time together. He wrote those letters while he was at war, getting shot at. There were stories where Napoleon would get off his horse and immediately bullets and cannon fire going all around him, and he still took the time to write a love letter to his wife. And Josephine gave him no time, just no attention. And I think about just what Jada did to Will in the sense of, you know, the red table thing and all this other. What? She had an engagement with some guy. That's what Josephine did. Josephine had an engagement with one of Napoleon's lieutenants. And then yet, despite all of that, he still married her. Well, he married her. He still crowned her empress. That's her right here. Literally, he took the crown off of his head, that he crowned himself Emperor of France, and turned around and put the crown on Josephine, making her empress, the first empress of France. And she didn't give a flying beep-a-doo-beep about what he did. Nothing. And he was angry. He was angry. He was like, what kind of woman are you? There's a story where he literally called for her to come to see it, because he thought there was some battles that, I mean, he won most of them, but there were battles that he thought he was going to lose. And he said, I just want to see you just one more time, to taste your lips, to feel your skin. Are you coming? He sent a whole detachment of men and horses to go pick her up. And she did. Not only did she not come, she didn't even let him know that she wasn't coming. So he thought she died at some point. So my point is that before you criticize Will Smith and try to emasculate him, oh, he's a weak guy. Yeah, Napoleon was the most powerful man in the world, and he had female problems. And that was Joseph, and she couldn't get pregnant. And I'm not saying that Napoleon was great, because Napoleon had serious women problems. He really did. He if you want to learn anything about Napoleon is, he would have been locked up today. You talk about Me Too movement? Yeah, because his second wife, Marie Louise, was just as bad, except she can get pregnant. When he married her, before he met, he just said, I need a womb. This is one of his quotes. I need a womb. And I don't know how to say that in Francais, but it still translates to I need a womb. So he married Marie Louise. And neither one of them was down for him. Neither one of them. In fact, when Napoleon, this is the picture of Napoleon, the second time he got exiled, neither one of the women in his life had his back. Neither one of them visited him when he was in exile. I don't even know where Josephine, I don't want to get into where Josephine was. She was gone. He still loved her. He still provided for her. She never lost the title of being empress, even once he married Marie Louise. That's how much he loved her. And then he married Marie Louise. Marie Louise had her own entanglements. Where do I know that word from? She had her own entanglements. In fact, when he was exiled to St. Elba, which you need to understand, this is one of the most remote islands in the world. St. Helena is literally 1,200 miles from the west coast of Africa. You have to know exactly where that is to even find it. That's where he was. And Marie Louise, not to mention Josephine, neither one of them even visited him. In fact, when he died, Marie Louise, who was living with this other guy, her entanglement, soon as he died, she packed up her stuff. Actually, she wasn't still living in Versailles or Fontainebleau, the castle. She was living somewhere, I think in Austria at that point. And then she just went ahead and she had 2 kids with this other guy who was also an officer for Napoleon's army, married him, and then had another kid like months after Napoleon died. So my point is, yeah, I understand what you're feeling about Will, and I even understand that what you're feeling about Jada, but this is nothing new. Great men in history have lost everything for the love of a woman. And those things are never talked about. We never talk about what happens, what women do to men. We always talk about, what men, and I'm not saying, Lord knows, please don't send me nasty notes. Entanglement. Yes, entanglement. Okay. We talk about, there's all these websites and stuff like this talking about the things that women go through. And Lord knows, I'm not saying that they don't. And I've probably done things. I know I've done things myself to hurt people, but let's just balance it out. Let's tell the whole story. So while we're talking about the whole story, while we're talking about entanglements and jewelry, gemstone, now we come to the main attraction, The affair. In fact, this is me and Napoleon. You know, I was there. You guys know I'm really, really pretty old. This is me helping out my boy. You know, trying to get me and Napoleon sitting there talking. And I was just like, man, didn't you know? He's like, I didn't know. I didn't know she was like this. I said, well, what about Marie Louise? He said, she had my children. I thought she was cool. No, obviously not. So those of you who are sitting there criticizing Will for hooking up with Jada, what can I say? Men make mistakes like that all the time. And if you know, like what Bobby Brown said about a pretty face and a smile, yeah. Josephine was fine. Napoleon loved her. Marie Louise was fine, and she can give children. He loved her. And ultimately, one of the reasons why he lost the Battle of Waterloo, he had woman issues. He's sitting there writing love letters and stuff, not responding. He's not seeing his woman and nothing like this. He's not even being respected at home. So yeah, he did something stupid. Will Smith smacked somebody, Chris Rock, and Napoleon lost the war because he wasn't focused. And you have to understand that everybody was after Napoleon. England, Germany, Austria, everybody wanted him. And he beat them 5 times, except the last time he didn't beat them. He made a mistake because his mind was somewhere else. So today, we're going to talk about this guy. This is Louis the 14th. I'm sorry, Louis the 16th. Louis the 16th and his lovely wife that all of you know, Marie Antoinette. And there was an issue dealing with this necklace, thus the concept of the affair of the necklace. This, ladies and gentlemen, is, by all accounts, the most expensive necklace ever produced in the world. 2,800 carats. And you have to understand, back in those days, when you had royalty had jewelry, we're not talking about the stuff I normally see when I pray, SI1s, G color, H color. Those are nice. We're talking about top of the line, because who else had money back in those days? In France, there was three empires, basically. It was the first empire, which was the religious people. There was the second, which was the royalty, and then the third, which was 99.9% of everybody in France. So nobody could afford this kind of jewelry. And you have to understand, Marie Antoinette wasn't French. That's the first thing you need to understand. She wasn't French. Her mother, she was actually Austrian, coming from the world famous, the world most powerful family at that time, the Habsburgs, who ruled Europe with a pretty iron fist. Marie Antoinette was basically she was just a girl. I mean, literally, she was 14 when she hooked up with Louis the 16th. And Louis the 16th had his own issues. He was shy. There was nothing special about him. He was fat. He didn't have a sense of himself. So when him and Josephine, him and Marie Antoinette got together, I think Marie Antoinette was 1 year older than he was. And he prayed to God at his wedding, please, God, protect us because we are getting married too young. Now, you have to understand, Louis' family was a whole bunch of, for lack of a better word, hoes. I mean, Louis the 14th slept with everybody. I mean, he slept with people 3-4 times a day. Okay, his father, his son Louis the 15th was also out there. So when Louis the 16th came, he was totally different because he wasn't even interested in sex at all. It took 7 years before him and Marie actually even consummated the marriage. So when her mother, Marie Theresa, who was an empress, a very powerful empress in Austria, when she basically arranged the marriage between Marie Antoinette and Louis the 16th, I'll just say Louis, she did it just to keep from going back to war with France, because Austria and France were at war all the time. So they just said, here, take my daughter. She was actually, Marie Theresa had 16 children. Marie Antoinette was the 15th. She was, those of you who have lots of children, she was like that child that everybody forgot about. She was beautiful. She was beautiful, but according to the things I've done, she didn't have a brain in her head. She was literally the ultimate, the first Valley girl. And her mother told her this, listen, I'm basically sending you on a mission. You need to go to France, check out what they're doing, marry this man, keep the peace, report in. And Marie Antoinette was just like, I don't want to do that, Mom. I really don't want to do that. But when you're a princess or a prince, you obey. So she did it. Louis the 15th, the father died suddenly. So they were like 18, 19 years old when they arose to become the king and queen of France. Neither one of them was they were totally unprepared. Absolutely unprepared to rule anything. They couldn't even rule themselves. So since Marie's mother, Marie Antoinette, mother to Marie Theresa, told her to get along and just be as French as possible, that's what she did. And since the French people, who already hated Austrian people because of all the wars, they didn't like her to begin with, what she did was the one thing that she knew she had to do really, really well, which was spend money. Marie Antoinette stayed with Louis because he had money. He was the king. She was used to living the life around. So what did she do? She bought everything. And that's why the French people hated her. The whole thing, she never said, let them eat cake. But the way they felt about her made it easy for them to put that saying on her, let them eat cake. Because she didn't give a flying, well, actually, you know what? She did care, but she was so busy battling all the demons, all the people going around her. She had a small group of friends, her BFFs, who they went shopping and they had parties all the time. Marie was a party girl. She had parties that lasted days, sometimes weeks. They said for a few years, Marie Antoinette never even came home because she just went from one party to another party. She figured, if the French people like this, and French people are not really that too far away from this now. If the French people like this, then let me be more French. And if you understand French people, you can't be more French than French people. The only reason why they let me in is because I'm Black and I'm African American. I'm African American, so they give me a break. But other than that, if you're not French, you're not down. So I don't even want to get into the next thing. So I'm going to come back and we're going to finish this story on the other side. All right, we're back. So, all right, you got Louis the 16th, you got Queen Marie Antoinette. Now, let's go back to the necklace. So let me tell you a little about her spending habits. Marie Antoinette would buy the best and the greatest of everything. She bought all the things she had shoes made out of diamonds, and she wore them, and then the shoe fell apart, and she got so mad at the shoemaker, said, why did you make me a shoe that fell apart? She was like, you wore them. Why did a shoe that cost this much money fall apart? She said, because you wore them, because he never intended him to wear them. Marie Antoinette, the style of what they call the pompadour, those really high hairdos. Well, it was common fashion for women to wear, at least of royalty, to wear a pompadour, a hair that was 1 foot in height. Marie Antoinette wore her hairdo 3 feet tall, 3 feet of hair. sisters that go get weave and everything else, you have nothing on Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette wore a hat styled as a ship, a full scale, not a full scale, a scale model of a full ship on her head. And people hated her and loved her at the same time. So here's the necklace. These two guys, Baumier and Bassier, who were the royal jewelers of France, they made this necklace that, as I showed you, this necklace was 2,800 carats. 2,800 carats. Did I move it somewhere? I'm sorry. 2,800 carats. 647 gemstones. This is the necklace. Marie Antoinette hated this necklace. As removed from reality as she was about spending money, contrary to popular belief, she really was quite conservative. And my point is start to understand that a lot of things that we understand about Marie Antoinette wasn't really true. This is what public opinion has created on her, where 200 years later, we believe Marie Antoinette was just like the worst person in the world. She wasn't. She was fiscally conservative, and she was sexually conservative. She really didn't care about, well, she didn't really like sex. I mean, she eventually had kids with Louis, but it was, like I said, 7-8 years later. They thought Louis was gay. So this woman, this woman here, let's get to her. This woman is Madame Lamotte. Madame Lamotte was actually related to the French royalty. I think she was like the distant cousin of Henry II. Well, she found out that there's this guy named Cardinal Rohan. Cardinal Rohan, real people, all these are real people. Cardinal Rohan was the ambassador to Austria when Marie Antoinette was there, and of course her mother. And he started to talk all kinds of mess about Marie. He thought Marie was a bubblehead. He just said it. She's a bubblehead. She's stupid. A lot of people thought that, but she was bold enough to say it. And so the mother, who was actually quite powerful, basically kicked him off the court. Not basically, she kicked him out of the court. So in those days, if you wasn't connected, you were nobody. You were nobody. So he got kicked out of the court. And despite all the things he did to make the marriage between Louis XVI and Marie not happen, they got married anyhow, which made it really bad because now the mother in Austria hated him and the daughter couldn't stand him as well. So he was out of the court in Austria and in France. And he was like a lot of people today who, feel like they need to take pictures and selfies and, how many clicks. He was one of those kind of guys. He was a fame hog. He just wanted fame at all costs. So what he did was he found this woman named Madame Lamotte. Madame Lamotte seduced him. She seduced him. She got in close, but ultimately she was a con woman. And she originally wanted the cardinal just to kind of see if she can get some money from him. But then she found out that he needed to be part of the court. So she created this whole thing that telling him not only was she connected to Marie, like Marie was her girl. They used to hang out all the time. And later on, let me stop. She first created the dynamic that she knew Marie. She didn't know Marie from a can of paint, but she knew the court. Then she got him to like, hey, you want to be a part of the court? Yeah, I know Marie. Marie's my girl. Marie's your girl. I think I can get you in. Of course, the cardinal was like, really? Seriously? So he started just listening to her, hanging out with her. And then Madame Lamotte said, you know what? You know what I found out? What? Marie actually likes you. Get out of here. Yes, she told me that she likes you. So he started saying, oh my God, the queen she said, in fact, not only that's the reason why she don't want to deal with you, because she don't want everybody to know that she really likes you. And of course, he was stupid. He was stupid. He believed her, even though the possibilities of that would be like me getting with, I don't know. I don't want to say. So I have a viewer who thinks I have a love affair with J-Lo. No, I have I'm a celebrity love affair with J-Lo. No, Jada was actually my girl. So that would be like Jada calling me up saying, Barry, I want to get with you. Really? What about Will? Don't worry about Will. So the Cardinals started writing love letters to Marie Antoinette. And Madame Lamont had an accomplice who was a forger. So what he would do is he would write the letters. The Cardinal would write the letters to Marie. Marie would Lamont would give those letters to the forger. She would write down a response that Marie Antoinette was supposedly saying, and he would forge her signature, her whole handwriting on those letters and go back to the Cardinals. And that went back and forth for months. And then eventually Lamont said, you know what? What? I think Marie Antoinette, the queen, wants to get with you. For real? For real. But she needs some proof. She needs proof that you really care about her. Well, what do you want me to do? You know about that necklace she likes? Now, again, the Cardinal was out of the circle, so he didn't know that Marie Antoinette turned down that necklace God knows how many times. I mean, she literally kicked him out of the court, like the jewelers. Go, I don't want that. It's ugly. It's like you're wearing a chandelier. She hated the necklace. And these guys invested a whole lot of money in this necklace because they were so sure that she was going to buy it, because that's how ostentatious Marie Antoinette was. She hated that necklace. So Lamont got the Cardinal to give an IOU for the necklace. In fact, even set up a meeting place between Marie Antoinette and the Cardinal, even though she found someone, a prostitute who looks just like Marie Antoinette. She found a prostitute that looked like Marie Antoinette and had them meet. Those of you who have ever been to Versailles, there's all these wonderful gardens. Oh, and now the name of the garden escapes me. But there's a part in Versailles where the garden is kind of dark because of the shading and everything else. So they supposedly met, and they let the fake Marie Antoinette meet with the Cardinal, even let the fake Antoinette give the Cardinal a rose, and then created this disturbance where they had to go away. So by that point in time, the Cardinal was like, this is it. Bam, she gonna be with me. So he went out and got the necklace. He put an IOU. He went to, I'll just call them B&B. He went to B&B and said, listen, guys, I got to tell you a secret, but you can't tell nobody. What? The princess, the queen loves me. For real, monsieur? Porte veille. Porte veille is, I know somebody's laughing right now. Porte veille means for real, right? Porte veille, oui, monsieur. The queen loves you. He was like, okay. So he got the necklace, the IOU for the necklace. Again, this necklace would be worth something like $15 million today. Probably more than that because of just the provenance, who owned it before. So he got the necklace. He gave it to supposedly one of the valets of Marie Antoinette, who actually was the con man who was helping Madame Lamont. And between Madame Lamont and the other con man, they broke the necklace up and sold it off in England and different places. A couple weeks later, B&B, the two jewelers come. Madame, may I speak to the queen, please? And the queen, of course, you don't speak directly to the queen. So one of the queen's servants said, what do you want? I hope the queen is enjoying the necklace, and we were just wondering when we're gonna get paid, because these guys are broke. They were almost bankrupt because they made this investment. So the servant went back to Marie Antoinette and said, these two, those two guys, the jewelers? Yes, B&B. Yes, I know. What's up? What do they want now? Well, according to them, you got their necklace. What? No, I don't have their necklace. I hated that. You know what? Just no. Just get out of here. And then she thought about it, and she says, let me find out what's going on. So she went to them and said, what's going on? And at first they didn't want to tell because it was supposed to be hush hush. But eventually, because they were broke and the queen was telling them that I'm not paying you anything, they eventually had to come, he had to come to grips with, this is a fraud. This is a con game. So Cardinal Rohan told of what happened, told about Lamont, told about supposedly the relationship that he supposedly thought he had with Marie Antoinette. And it was huge. Now, Louis the 16th could have just, had everybody executed and put him in jail and that's it. But no. He did a Will Smith move. Instead of just privately dealing with this, no, he wanted to prove to the world that all the stuff that they were saying about Marie Antoinette, because they called her Madame Deficit, okay? Because she was taking, these people were, you have to understand what was going on 1785. You have to understand what was going on 1777, 1779. People were starving to death. During this time, there was actually a small ice age, actually started during King Louis XIV's reign, but there was a small ice age. So the weather, you talk about climate change, the weather conditions had changed so dramatically that there was no crops. The coldest winter ever France had experienced. Because then there was a volcano that happened, which covered dust. So this was going. So people were starving to death. The only people who had any money who was eating were the rich people, to the point where they had children stomping on flour on holes that was in the ceiling. They would stomp, so the ceiling would be coated with flour, the same flour that people were eating that needed to eat. That's what they were covering their white wigs with, and so. This is what was going on with this situation. So when Louis XVI brought it up to a trial to prove to the France that his wife wasn't as guilty, wasn't as evil as everybody said, the people of France was just like, nah. We don't believe that at all. In fact, the things that we do now, as far as all these celebrity gossips and tablets, actually started during this period of time. This was the trial of the century, OJ's trial, or what's going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. That's nothing in comparison to what she did. Louis XVI created this huge trial. And because the public opinion was so bad about Marie Antoinette, they called her all kinds of names. They called her. They drew pictures. Tabloids actually started. Actually, they're still popular in France. Tabloids started. National Enquirer. They had worse versions of that in France during that period, 18th century. So they drew pictures of her as a beast. They drew pictures of Louis XVI as this big fat guy, or Marie Antoinette would have her legs open and gemstones would be coming out of her, just crazy pictures. So even though they eventually found out that Marie was innocent, and Louis XVI, well, first of all, not only was she innocent, she knew nothing about it. But despite in fact, Marie actually had charities. I'm thinking about how Mrs. B's charity in Haiti. She had charities. She gave to the arts. She was a big supporter of the arts, and despite all the work she did, they didn't care. She was guilty. She was guilty not only of stealing the necklace, basically intoxicating the mind of the cardinal. So she took money from the state. She took money from the church. She took money from the king. We were starving because of her extravagance, and none of that was true. And I think about Will Smith, thinking about all my friends saying does anybody, he doesn't look at Will Smith's movies in the same way because of what he did. That's what happened to Marie Antoinette. That's what happened to the king of France. And I'm not saying these guys were blamed because they were totally incompetent. But without the queen, the French Revolution and that necklace, the French Revolution more than likely would have never happened. It was all about public opinion. And the king knew that, Marie was out there. I mean, not me sleeping around. She was a good mom and everything else, but he knew and he couldn't stop her. Just like Jada didn't stop. Everybody saw Will smiling when Chris Rock told the joke at first, and then Jada had that look on her face. Next thing you know, he's sitting there talking about, keep my wife's name out your mouth and everything else. That was Louis. The only difference is everybody lost their head, literally. They cut, the cardinal, gone, done. Most of all the people who were involved, the prostitute, everybody else was either jailed or they got beheaded. And the only person who got out of it scot-free was Miss LaMotta. Madame LaMotta got off. In fact, no, they put her in jail for a minute. She escaped. She went to England, and guess what she did after that? See if this reminds you of anything. She wrote a book. Yeah, she wrote a book about the whole scandal, and she became, not only she was a con woman, and she became a national hero. A national hero. Kind of like what Chris Rock is. His whole career has changed because Chris Rock, and he's not blameless in this too, whether or not he actually knew Jada had alopecia, or why did he make that comment? People have told me that he's made comments before about Jada. So despite what Chris Rock did to start this whole thing, Chris Rock's sales has gone up. He's wanted more now. In fact, I heard rumors that he may host the Oscars next year. Yeah. And then, of course, at the end, Marie Antoinette lost her head, literally. And they didn't do it nicely. They literally, look at the people. This was big time. This was MTV type of stuff. This was YouTube. This was everything. Back in those days, you sold tickets to see someone's head cut off. And that's what they did. And from there started the French Revolution. So the French Revolution was started over a necklace. Now, and I'm not saying there was other things. It wasn't just that, but the catalyst, the imagine a stack of dynamite. Or I live in Chicago. Imagine Mrs. O'Leary's barn and all the houses were made out of wood, and Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicks the fire over and starts a Chicago fire. That's what the necklace was for Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. That's what the slap was for Will Smith. Will Smith he's destroyed. Maybe people may forget. But if we live in the same similar world that Marie Antoinette lived in, it's probably even worse now because they didn't have Twitter, they didn't have Facebook, they didn't have all these different ways of talking about people so immediately. He may never recover. So again, when you start to think about things going on in your life, when you begin to think about what you're experiencing, start to think about the stories. Start to think about how, if you haven't done already, start to think about how those things affect you. How did you get to where you are today? Take time, as I always say, my name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller, and your homework each week is to look at the people around you, the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you've chosen to spend your life with, and take the time to discover the value of not only their stories, but more importantly, your own stories. So if you have any comments you found it interesting, please put a comment in the post. Please subscribe. And I'll see you next week. Au revoir. Atatella. Bye-bye.